Welcome to the Martini Shot, home of movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails. Before we get into the review of Maxxxine, let's face the horrors of our past with a killer cocktail called the former porn star Martini. This is my own little riff on the porn star Martini, swapping out the passion fruit and instead replacing it with the sweet and tart flavors of strawberry and cherry. So let's go ahead and get started with a little bit of tart cherry juice. You're going to be doing 1 ounce. Follow that up with 1 ounce of strawberry puree. You can either make it at home or if you were in a rush like me, buy it at the store. And now for our alcohol, go ahead and add 1.5 ounces of vanilla vodka. And now for a little smidgen of extra vanilla, go ahead and add just a dash of vanilla extract. Throw some ice in that shaker and shake to chill. Once you're done, go ahead and strain that into your preferred glass. I'm going to be using a chilled coupe. And for a garnish, you can add a skewered maraschino cherry. And there you go. Now you have the former porn star Martini. Very, very nice. You have the great combination of the vanilla vodka and the vanilla extract, as well as that strawberry puree to make this nice, creamy, kind of dessertish kind of taste. The tartness of the cherry and the sweetness of the strawberry is really working in harmony here, never really overpowering one another. You get that nice tartness from the cherry, but before it starts to linger, maybe get a little bit too bitter, that sweetness from the strawberry really kind of comes in and mellows it out. And honestly tastes like a nice piece of cheesecake with some strawberry drizzle on top. Super straightforward, but super delicious nonetheless. Big fan of this one, would work great as a nightcap, maybe topping off a meal, or maybe a hard night of almost getting murdered. I don't know your life, so if that applies to you, then this might just be for you. Now that we have our drink, let's get right into the review. Whether you like him or not, you gotta respect Ty West for putting out an entire trilogy in the time span it takes other directors to release one film. Hear that, Peele, you hack? Bong Joon-ho who? I'm gonna kill myself! There's certainly a quantity over quality argument that can be made, but I for one have really enjoyed these films quite a bit. X was a neat callback to 70s Grindhouse, most noticeably Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that paid homage and even played a bit with the time period stance on sex in film. Its follow-up prequel, Pearl, was far more of a character study set in the period of Technicolor while tackling themes of repression and art's role in self-awakening. In a similar vein, Maxxxine adopts the veneer of 80s slasher-era horror. It shares many of the same elements as those films, women being slain by an unseen killer, bright red blood, and the fact I didn't think it was very good. That might be a bit of an over-exaggeration, but for me, this was my least favorite entry in the franchise. While I respect its technicals, its practical gore, and its recreation of the era, I found the story to be a scatterbrain of ideas that didn't come together in a super compelling way. The film mostly squanders the talent of Mia Goth, saddling her with her least interesting role in the trilogy that neither lends itself to a stellar performance or character. To me, this was a bit of a letdown, not really doing much for the series, the established characters, or the particular subgenre it chose to focus on. And no Vin Diesel cameo, what's up with that? Years after escaping the Texas Massacre featured in X, sole survivor Maxine Minx is looking to break into Hollywood through her first leading role in a new horror film. Yet predictably, all is not well in Tinseltown as rampant evangelism threatens expression, Maxine's own past comes back to haunt her, and a real serial killer referred to as the Night Stalker is picking ladies off one by one. Maxine must confront her demons and tap into the badass she became on the farm to get out alive and make a name for herself in the City of Stars. Mia Goth is undeniably the linchpin of the whole series, being the only actress to appear in all of the films in some capacity. Pearl gave her the reins to lead the story, while X mostly kept her as one of the ensemble until the very end, though some may forget Goth also portrayed the elderly Pearl in chameleon-like prosthetics. The first two films gave her room to do something fun, something unique, and Maxine, Goth does what she can, but the story doesn't give her a ton to work with. Maxine kind of just floats from scene to scene, never really changing or being the interesting thing about that scene. Things kind of just happen to her, but she's not endearing enough to really make me care a ton. Her hardened identity of being a survivor kind of makes her cold reactions to all the death around her understandable, but it also makes her feel a bit disassociated to the world around her. This could have been really interesting to explore, but the film has so much going on that it it doesn't really take the time to sit and go a little deeper with the character. The world around her and its inhabitants were much more enjoyable in my opinion. Side performances from the likes of Elizabeth Debicki, Giancarlo Esposito, and Kevin Bacon all brought a little something to their small amount of screen time, whether it be artistic pursuits in a silencing world or a hammy Bayou accent. Likewise, the sleazy world of 80s Hollywood is realized beautifully through vibrant, intense lighting, impactful editing, and a fun 80s score that doesn't rely too much on the obvious choices. When it comes to the gore, there's a ton of really solid practical blood and guts work that felt very reminiscent of the time, particularly Italian horror. Necks get cut, heads get exploded, and every man will instinctively cover their testicles in response to a particular scene. These moments are definitely squirm-worthy, which helps make up for the film's unfortunate lack of tension. Outside of one scene involving a plaster cast of a head, I was never really stricken with impending dread, despite so many forces working against our main character. Whereas X and Pearl's inspirations were a bit more singular and narrow, Maxxxine is throwing everything at the wall, yet not a lot of it sticks. West wants to cover a lot of ground, yet the focal point of the film feels aloof and unfocused. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of ground the film attempts to traverse. Satanic panic and its looming threat to the film industry, the rise in public awareness of serial killers, and the Hollywood dream machine in general are all showcased here. But they all just take turns swapping between importance as the film goes on. We're told how ruthless the film industry is time and time again, but Maxxxine doesn't ever really experience this. Religious protesters are seen constantly throughout the film, yet their impact is never really felt until much later in a very shoehorned fashion. At the end of the day, the film doesn't really say anything new or do anything interesting with these concepts despite all the potential they offer. The previous films kind of had similar issues, but never to the extent where the whole plot feels constantly scatterbrained. Never is this more apparent than the climax, an excessive overloading of goofiness that blindsides you in a way that leaves you in the wrong kind of disbelief. It feels like it was built to provide some sort of catharsis for Maxxxine, but the emotional implications of the scene feel like they were meant to be generated right then and there, not throughout the whole entire film like you would think. Maxxxine haphazardly wraps up this trilogy with a film undecided in its identity. Its campy B-movie aesthetic neither lampoons the genre enough to be funny, nor does it manage to be subversive with its chosen setup. Despite some solid performances, a sick visual style, and some gnarly moments of bodily harm, the story remains half-baked, cobbled together by plot points that come and go, and writing that absolutely needed another look over. I was really hoping to like this one, and while there's plenty I appreciate, I still wish it could have delivered more. I think it's time for Ti West to step away from the slasher realm, as staying in this one for 3 films has certainly seemed to dry the well. Heck, maybe he can get a little out there and try a Western. Oh no. For my rating, I'm giving this film 2.5 Bates Motel signs out of 5. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Martini Shot. If you saw Maxxxine, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. And if you like what you saw here and would like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me across all social media channels. Those links are down in the description below. If you enjoy movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails, be sure to check out my website, martinishot.blog. Until next time, thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Live deliciously, but please remember to drink responsibly.